Thank you, Amelie, and thank you, Martin, that you could come here and give your expertise also to our use, and we can learn a lot from you, and I welcome everybody else also here. It will be recorded, so I think that there will be maybe more people listening this later, but nice that there is some, and you can have good questions to Martin also, but okay, please, Martin, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Marita and Anna Maria. Nice to have you here. I believe that will be the same as Kiva Etta Oletta Ala. I don't know if I pronounced it correct, but
it was quite well.
Okay. Anyway, I'm glad to meet you here in this conference about pollination in greenhouses. I'm Maarten van Herberden. I'm 60 years old, and this year I'm 50 years beekeeper in Holland. We call it Holland, but the most people say that in the Netherlands. I was a professional beekeeper for pollination. I'm living in the middle of an area where a lot of greenhouses are, and they use it for every types of crops, for ornamentals, vegetables, fruit. And these days people want to eat fruit and vegetables the whole year, also during the winter, when it's normal that there are no strawberries in winter. And now it's possible to have it by ourselves. And I think that's also your goal, to have your own blackberries and strawberries in Finland with your own pollinators, and to prevent that you use bumblebees coming from another country with other types of bumblebees that are not living naturally in Finland. So I'm also chairman of the Dutch Beekeepers Association. We started 10 years ago. Of course, we have a beekeepers organization like you in Finland, with the people who have the bees for their hobby or for their pleasure. But the goal of the professional beekeepers is something else. Of course, it's also always a financial reason, and we want to have healthy bees colonies, and we don't want to. We also don't want to. We want to prevent that our customers don't have bees at the time they want it. Any questions about this introduction? Is it for everybody clear? Can you? Is my voice loud enough, or do I have to speak more louder? Or
no, actually, for me it's quite well. I hear. Is there anybody? Henrika, you have something? Please open your microphone if you have some question, or it was just some like this.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Now, I suggest we have for the first 45 minutes the presentation. Then we have 5 minutes pause. So you have a cup of coffee or something else. And then we start for the second part, also 45 minutes. And again, 5 minutes pause. And if necessary, we add at the end 20 minutes. So the total time is 2 hours, as Marita asked. Maybe there are other people. I already met Marita and Anna Maria during the visit to the Netherlands last year in March. There was a small delegation of Finnish beekeepers and bumblebee growers and people who have a greenhouse. We visit then a blackberry grower. They make per year 170,000 kilos of blackberries in the greenhouses. And we also visit an eggplant grower, and they produce 9.5 million kilograms of eggplants per year. So that those two companies are large, big companies, growers, and they both use bees for the pollination. Sometimes they use a mix of bees and bumblebees. As you know, that the bumblebees, they fly also with less of light, and that's there's a positive effect of bumblebees. But if there are a lot of flowers, bumblebees are not sufficient in numbers to pollinate all the flowers, and then the honeybees are better. So you see in the first months in Holland that we used often the combination of bumblebees, honeybees, and later on that's only honeybees. Marita told me that in Finland the most major crops are blackberries and strawberries, and also tomatoes. In Holland we don't use honeybees for tomato pollination, and the reason is that the flowers of the tomatoes, they have their honey deep inside the flowers, and honeybees can't reach the nectar. And for that reason, of course, you can put more water at the tomato plants to have more nectar, and that's also possible with honeybees. But bumblebees have also the benefit that they can buzzing the pollen loose, and with that effect, you get a good pollination of tomato flowers. And for strawberries and blackberries, they use mainly honey bees. And that's also because you have peak moments in flowering at the strawberries and the blackberries. So 1 week you have less flowers, next week you have a lot of flowers, and depends on how many fruit there is on the plant. If the next wave is also with a lot of flowers or less flowers. And honeybees, they go up and down with more and less flowers, so you don't get any, let's see how you call it, it's called overfed. So you don't have you have just the right amount of honeybees for the amount of flowers that are blooming at that moment. Bumblebees fly always, also when flowers are not good enough for pollination. So the effect of honey from bumblebees is that you can get damage on the flowers, and with that you have also damage on the fruit, on the tomatoes or on the blackberries or on the strawberries. So that's another positive effect of bumblebees in the crops.
Sorry, Martin, just asking, is it okay if people just ask questions during your presentation, or would you like to hear them afterwards, or how do you prefer?
Well, after every agenda point, I will be taken from the time to answer the questions. That is a good suggestion, Anna Maria.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions about the pollination, about tomatoes, strawberries, and blackberries?
I would like to ask or clarify, sorry, that did you mean that honeybees are more agile what comes to the amount of flowers to pollinate? So when the number of flowers giving pollen goes up or down, up and down, honeybees can follow it in a way that the pollination effort goes along with the number of flowers giving pollen, but bumblebees cannot so much. So when there's not so much flowers giving pollen, bumblebees would still continue trying to get the pollen and maybe then violate the flowers. Did I understood correctly?
Yeah, that's correct, and that's a natural effect because honeybees they have their own stock of honey, their own stock of pollen. So if there is a day stormy or rainy weather, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days, it's no problem for the honeybees because they have their own stock. And bumblebees, of course, they have also a little bit stock, but it's not enough to stop flying. So bumblebees always will fly, also when it's a little bit rainy or a little bit hasty or lack of light. And that's a natural behavior and the difference between honeybees and bumblebees.
So the bumblebees have only maybe 1 or 2 days stock.
Yeah, that's correct, because they don't survive the winter as a colony, but as an individual queen.
Okay. So is there any if the flowers, for example, strawberry flowers are open, do they bees get immediately, or is it immediately ready for pollination, or is there some kind of time that it's not yet ready even though it's open?
Yeah, that's correct. It's not so that if a flower is blooming, it's possible for pollination. I come on that part later on. We call it the effective pollination period, and that's something else than the blooming of the flower. For instance, zucchini only blooming 1 day, and that's between the morning 7 till the morning 11, so that's only 4 hours totally. And after it's also blooming, but it's not more possible for pollination because the pollen are not kiemkrachtig, we call it. It's not possible anymore to grow into the female flower parts. Something about in general. The pollinators we are using in Holland are honeybees, of course, and the bumblebees, but also solitary bees, the Osmia rufa, Osmia megachile, but also flies, like the Lucilla and the Hoover flies, Erostinus, and the Einstalis are also used. That are Hoover flies. They also used for pollination, mostly in the seed production. Not for strawberries or honeybees, but strawberries or blackberries, but it's all seed production. For instance, pollination is a very important part. I'm happy that we here in Holland realize that ourselves, because the production in the Netherlands is around 38 billion euros per year. That's the production of seeds and fruit and vegetables, and 10% of that is part of the pollination. So pollination is a very important part of food production, and that will be 2.9 is totally added by pollinators, dus bumblebees and honeybees. And 2.4 million is only the honeybees. It's in English we say billion, and in Holland we say milliard, but that's the same. So in English it's 2.4 billion euros per year, which is added by the honeybees and the production and quality of the seeds and fruits and flowers and vegetables. Important business. Even kijken. Any questions still now? Okay. Then there was a question about the colony size and the number of colonies.
Sorry, actually, I was thinking that I could maybe share the questions which you sent us beforehand, so that people can also like have something to read,
Yeah,
and it
that's
can
okay.
make it easier to follow. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Like this. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
It's
put
about
this.
the colony size and the number of colonies per crop. And the question was, how does a beekeeper know how big a bee colony should be for a specific pollination job? And how many colonies are needed? Colonies, different size of the greenhouse. And that depends, of course, of the flowering. How many flowers, what type of flowers, what types of crops, how many flowers, and how many days the flowers are receptive for pollination. For instance, cherry bloom is 10 days and consists of a lot of flowers. We have also cherry trees in the greenhouses. Of course, that's the same reason as we had strawberries in the greenhouses, to have already in February, March cherries instead of April, May, and to have it earlier for the market available. So for cherries, you need specific honeybees, because it's only for 10 days period, and a lot of flowers are blooming at the same period, especially when the sun comes through. It's only a very short period. But on the other hand, zucchinis, what I said before, they have a few flowers, specific female and male flowers on the same plant, and they're only blooming in the morning from 7 o'clock till 11 o'clock. So the pollination has to be done in a very short period. And for that reason, we need also a lot of colonies in the zucchinis, because a lot of work has to do in a small time period. But for the eggplants, they are flowering for a few days, so we can do that job with less colonies. So there is a reason that we use for eggplant pollination only 2-3 colonies per hectare. An hectare is 10 ares, so that's 10,000 square meters. And zucchini, we use 10 colonies per 10,000 square meters. The next sheet, please. Do you have a table of a list of recommendations of how many colonies and description of the colonies needed for different plants and size of the greenhouse? Yeah, there's a long list, but for the outdoor crops, that's the first part. Also, I'm giving you the numbers per hectare, so that's 10,000 square meters. Apples and pears, we don't have that inside, not in the greenhouses. It's only 2 colonies per hectare outside. Plum, peaches, 5 colonies per hectare. Berries, 5 colonies per hectare outside. And strawberries, 2 colonies per hectare. And ornamentals, it's 3 colonies per hectare. That's all the numbers are given for the outdoor crops. And at the downside, you see this, also the numbers for the indoor crops. And of course, there we have also berries, and we need a double amount of colonies. For inside, it's 10 colonies, and for blueberries, 20 colonies, and strawberries also 10. Seed cultivation, it's only 1 colony per 700 square meters. And it's also because the seed producing is a very expensive job, with new types of vegetables. So it's very important that the pollination is more than 100%. And for that reason, we use 1 colony per 700 square meters. So that's a lot of honeybees for seed production. Are there any questions about this?
Do you have raspberries in greenhouses?
Yes, we have also raspberries. Yeah.
How do they differ from these ones? Is the same like blueberries or?
It's the same as strawberries. So that's 10 colonies per hectare. And then you have under every condition, you have a good pollination. But if somebody want to have figures about other types of crops, specific crops, I can discuss that or give a presentation next week, because the list is so long. And that you will see that on the next agenda point, the crop suitable for bee pollination. That was also a question. It's a very, very, very long list. So if anyone needs more figures about colonies per crop, I can discuss that later on next week. Any questions?
They are silent now.
I hope not for a technical reason.
No. It's just please ask if you have any questions. Now it's a good opportunity to ask. It's
okay, later on is also possible, so don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, crops suitable for bee pollination. That was also a question. I divided in three parts: vegetables and fruit. We have, of course, as I told you before, a lot of eggplants in Holland, zucchinis, strawberries, blackberries, all kind of berries, red berries. Zucchini was the second time. Oh, it's double. I'm very excited about zucchini and eggplants, I see. But anyway,
yes.
These are the main crops here. And also seed cultivation. As the United States has the Silicon Valley, in Holland we have Seed Valley. So we make about 70% of all seeds in the world. Not only for production, but at least for making better seeds with more resistance against fungus and insect resistance. And all those seeds are spread around the world for different climate ranges, and there they make more seed of it. But the new seeds are mostly made in Holland. And we see then the seeds for zucchini and of eggplants, carrots, of course, that's for agriculture, agricole, all types of cabbage, coals. Dus white cole, red cole, cauliflowers and asparagus. Selfisfie, bell peppers, the sweet bell peppers, and the hot peppers, the chili peppers, radish. It's a long list. And also for the floriculture, dus Colteria's and Ilex, Calicarpas, rose hips, malus branches. But also for normal flowers in your garden, a lot of those seeds are multiplied by honeybees. Are there any questions about this list, or do you need more information, or do you have specific questions how we multiply the seeds?
This is something different, which actually I don't know if we have Finland is seed cultivation. It's much, but as we were in Chile, I heard that they use a lot of honeybees in pollination services. It is very important in if you are seed cultivating.
Yeah. And what country did you mention, Anna Maria? Marita, sorry.
Yeah, we were in Chile in Apimondia trip last year.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was they have this huge avocado farms and of course all other things also, but then they say that they have a lot of seed cultivation also, and they are using honeybees as pollinators.
Yeah.
But the avocado was also quite complicated because it's the two male and female plants and flowers, and then they are open in different time, and this is quite demanding.
Yeah. I think that Cloud has a question.
No, I was going to say that there is some seed cultivation also here in Finland, but it's like on a very small scale compared to the Netherlands. But there are some seed companies here that develop seeds and
do you know are they using honeybees as pollinators?
Well, I used to have some bees at a farm that did some seed cultivation, so yes, okay. Kind of.
Oh. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes, good.
But it's very small. Like it's peanuts compared to the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some, like there is a Boreal in Jokioinen is one company, for example, that does seed, and they have various locations around this part of the country where they grow seeds.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And is it done outside or also in greenhouses, Claude?
This was outside.
Okay.
No.
So that job has to be done also in a very short period.
Yes. But there are things like clovers and I can't remember what else there was, like that kind of plants, not vegetables.
Okay.
Mm.
And they use honeybees for it, not the Melipona bees. And
no, I mean it's outside, and I don't know. Actually, I don't have bees there anymore. I don't know if there's any bees there now, or if they just rely on good luck.
And is it white clover or alfalfa?
It was white or red clover, not alfalfa.
Okay.
Yeah,
because in the United States, especially Canada, they use a lot of specific bees for the alfalfa pollination.
Mm.
And it is a special business. It's very impressive, and you see what's happening there.
Is alfalfa also deeper, so your Italian honeybee can't get to the nectar, or?
No, that's true.
Like the red clover is not so good for the bees.
It's only some of them are suitable for honeybees.
Yeah.
Therefore, they use for the alfalfa solitary bees, and it's a big business. Years ago, I imported a lot of those bees for seed production here in the Netherlands, and I buy them in Manitoba, Canada, because they are specialized in it.
Mm.
Yeah, actually, I don't know any who is using solitary bees in Finland.
No, I don't know anybody either who uses alfalfa in Finland.
No.
They use it for feeding the cattle.
Yeah, and it's a cover crop.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I think the next subject is the colony condition. What is the situation in a colony at the time they go inside the greenhouse? How much eggs, larvae, workers are needed for good pollination work in the greenhouse? Yeah, that's also another question you can't answer in general. It depends on the colony size, of course, and the types of crops and how many bee colonies you need for the crops. Sometimes we use 6 or 8 or 20 combs, but in general it's 10 combs colonies. With the 10 combs colonies, you have a good average amount of bees and brood and nectar, food, pollen, for a longer period to make it a success. But additional feeding is always very positive for the pollination, because if the queen is thinking there are nectar is coming in, they don't stop with laying eggs, and if there are eggs, they need pollen, and if they need pollen, we have a pollination, and everybody is happy then. But we also have very small seed production amounts, so you could say about 20, 30 square meters. So we need a very small bee colony of 4 or 6 combs, and that's sufficient enough, because that's hard for the bee colonies to put a large or average bee colony in such a small area. But for the production of coal in early March, that's for our in our country early in March, we need a lot of bees, and then we use 20 combs colonies.
Do you feed pollen for the colonies, or do you feed only sugar syrup, or?
I come on that subject later on back, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's on the part for next week, but sometimes we also here we have also feed sugars, and it depends on what time of a period of year. Sometimes we use sugar water. Sometimes we use candipoline. Candipoline is I believe it's Italian, but it's an feed sugar with pollen in it. And we also use apifonda, that's without pollen. So you can stimulate the queen and the bees to start, and then we use candipoline. Questions about this? Okay.
Sorry, I have a question.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Just came to my mind that you said that you give them food when you start them, but do you also give pollen during the time of pollination?
No, we don't give pollen.
At all?
No, at all. No.
Okay.
Of course, it's possible, and I will inform you about it next week, because we use ilex when it's very early in year. We help the bees to start up with ilex pollen, and then we put ilex trees in the greenhouse together with the bees, mostly a little bit earlier than the bees, to activate the bees and to give them a little bit of pollen. But we don't use pollen, for instance, like they use for bumblebees. No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, question 5 then. Moving a nest from outside into a greenhouse is different in the middle of summer and early in spring. That's a good question for Finland, I can imagine. Do you have any experience of moving out a nest from -degrees into a warm greenhouse? What happens, and how long does it take for the bees to adapt if there is a broodless period during winter? Of course, pollination is the best if the bees have brood to take care of, and the queen is laying eggs. But yeah, I can imagine it. We have in Holland the same situation. It's only a short period. Sometimes I have a customer who are asking bees in February, and the queen is not laying eggs, and we don't have brood. And they're coming from, let's say, -8 degrees or -10 degrees. Sometimes we have -15 degrees here, but that's mostly a very short period. And then the bees have to start work. That's not easy. But in Finland, I can imagine the situation is more often than in Holland, because you have another climate. And what you can do is before the bees has to start with pollination, put the bees, let's say a week before, in the greenhouse together with the ilex wood, with the pollen, the male ilex of course, because only the male give pollen. And then the bees will be ready after 1 week to take care of the flowers, the berries or the strawberries or the blackberries, and do that job. The bees in Holland have a very short period of broodless period of only 1 month, so that's a real short period. But as declared before, January, February is also a problem with our country to get the bees started, but it's possible. Below 7 degrees Celsius, you can't disturb the bees. If you are replacing bees outside below 7 degrees Celsius, the bees will come loose of the winter tross ball, how you call it, I don't know. But they come loose of their warm nest and they will be lost. So if you are moving bees in your car below 7 degrees Celsius, below 7 degrees Fahrenheit, you have to put them in the greenhouse, and otherwise don't disturb them. But I think you're familiar with that, because woodpeckers and other animals can disturb the bees also during winter. Any questions?
Yeah, so it's this. So you think that if you are moving them in the winter time, it was actually, we moved them now last March. It was in the beginning of March. They already had started a bit, the queen was started a very small area of laying eggs, and there were already a brood, but we moved them in and there was nothing for them inside, so we gave them pollen. What do you think about is it where do we get, if for example in Finland in wintertime we don't have any trees here, anything we can put into the greenhouse, so do they can we activate them only giving them pollen?
Yeah, but if you are moving the bees in March into the greenhouse, there is some, after 1 week, there are flowers in the greenhouse, I assume?
Yes, there was. Yes, there was after 2 weeks. So we didn't know how long time they need for activating. So just in case we moved them 2 weeks before there was anything in the greenhouse. So was it too early?
What was the outside temperature at that moment? Do you know?
What was the
outside temperature?
It was minus 10 something.
Okay, and what was the inside temperature of the greenhouse?
Plus 20.
And
plus 10 during night. During daytime, plus 20, and night 10. Yeah,
1 week should be enough then. It's not necessary to place them 2 weeks before.
Yeah. We were thinking. Now we learned something.
Yeah, but you also can, of course, because there are no trees are flowering at that time in Finland. Of course, the ilex trees, you can put them a few weeks earlier in a jar of water. So the female, the male ilex will come out and give their pollen. So they will be then treated and can go together with the bees in the greenhouse and activate the bees 1 week before they have to start their original pollination job.
So it's better to get them, make them to get the pollen themselves outside outside the box or their hive.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Some extra work anyway. It's
it's extra
is-
work. Yeah.
is this the farmer doing this if you need this ilex in a greenhouse, or is the beekeeper doing this work?
No, the beekeeper is doing this work.
Okay. So it's a
did
part
I
of
say
the service.
ilex? I mean salix.
Salix, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
salix,
yes.
sorry.
Okay, now I understand. Yes. So, but it's so the beekeeper has to organize this, and it's belong to his or her service.
Yeah. But I can imagine if the distance between the greenhouse and the beekeeper's home is too far, that you make arrangements about that the farmer will do that.
So do you take cuttings like willow? We're talking about willow, like willow trees. So you take willow cuttings and you stick them in a bucket, and then soon enough, so that the willow starts blooming essentially in the greenhouse.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
I suggest we have 5 minutes cup of coffee and then we start again.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody can think about any questions or. Yeah. Okay.
They can think about questions with the coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. We will back in 5 minutes. But I think that we can continue if you.
Yeah. Okay. I believe at question 5. Yeah.
Okay. I will start this sharing again. Wait, no, there. Screen. Okay, there we go.
Okay. That was about the temperature and how to bring the bees inside. So if the temperature is below 7 degrees Celsius, and you move the bees, you have to place them inside, because otherwise you are making damage to the bee colonies, because the bees are coming loose from the winter nest and they were lost by the cold. Are there any questions about the temperature of the 7 degrees and placing the bees in and outside the greenhouse? So that also means when the pollination job is done, and mostly inside the greenhouse is 10 till 20 degrees during the daytime. But afterwards, if you have to place the bees outside of the greenhouse and the temperature is low, the bee colonies will be lost then. So you have to take care that in your financial results to the farmer, of course.
So you think that it's too quick to move them from greenhouse so that the weather is going too quickly down if you have to move them out, and it's but in Finland the temperatures can go quite easily to very low and then very high. It's but I don't know.
That's not a problem for the bees, but that's the problem for the brood, for the young bees, because if they are coming outside from 10 degrees minus into the greenhouse during the daytime, 20 degrees for, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks, and the pollination job is done, and the queen is laying eggs, and you have a small nest of brood and larvae, and the bees have done their cleaning flight inside the greenhouse, and then they have to go outside because the job is done. You have a problem, not for the bees, but well for the brood.
Of course, they are going to winter cluster mode, and they can't keep the temperature to the brood this big amount what they have in greenhouse. But do you see? and of course they can't go out and for cleaning flights and those if it's still cold. But do you think that it's better to keep them a longer time inside the greenhouse, or what should do if the need is in March, for example, in Finland, and then you have to bring them out in April, and it can be very cold then.
Yeah, if the weather forecast is negative, so let's say it will be for a few days very cold outside, and after that there will be a better period. You better let the bees in the greenhouse and wait for the better period.
Yes.
But maybe there's also another farmer who's needing bees, and you can place the bees from, let's say, farmer 1 to farmer 2.
Mm-hmm. Yes. At the moment, we don't know if there is so many farmers that need this pollination service, but let's hope that it's growing.
Do you not run into the problem then that because there is a limit to how long you can keep the bees in the greenhouse anyway, like you only keep the bees 2 to 3 weeks in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
So then moving them into another greenhouse isn't going to do them any good.
No.
But and also, would you keep them in the same greenhouse? Like if say you can't move them outside, and you still won't be able to move them outside for like 3 weeks, because that might easily happen here. Like how would you deal with it?
At a normal period that you replace the bees will be 3, sometimes 4 or 5 weeks. But the difficulty in this is that the lack of different types of pollen. What is happening in the bee colony? If they have only one type of pollen, let's say strawberries, it's not always healthy for the bees. They need a variation. So if there are enough bees after they done the job at the first farmer, and you can place them mostly to a second farmer if there is a different type of pollen, let's say strawberries to raspberries or to zucchini or something else. That's not always negative for the bees. But it's also possible that you put two bee colonies together. So the old colony who's done a part of the job of the first farmer at the first farmer will be put together with the second colony is coming from outside, and they go both to the new farmer.
Okay. And you mentioned that you need to factor that into the cost of the service.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how what's the value of a bee colony in Finland, but at our country we pay mostly for one colony in the late winter or during early spring, 100 till 125 euros per colony of 8 till 10 comes.
Okay, that is much cheaper than here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We normally it's around 350, 400 euros.
And in what time of the year?
In springtime.
In the spring, like winter colonies in the springtime are.
Okay, yeah, that's 3 times more than.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other time of the year where the similar problem comes about is if you're late in the season. Say it's late in the summer and you have the colonies in the greenhouse, and then you need to take them out to recover. But the nature outside is already in fall, and there is not much chance for them to recover.
Yeah, that's true.
I suppose, well, in the Netherlands that is going to happen later than here, but you will also have some time at the end of the year where you will not be able to put them outside to recover. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, what we are doing in late spring, early winters, and let's say that's October, the 1st of October. There is not much flowers outside anymore. There's no nectar in normal years anymore. And what we are doing is putting 3-4 old colonies coming from the farmer together and give them some extra food. Sometimes we give a colony which is standing outside extra food, and we take some of those full combs of that colony was standing outside, and we give that on an how you call it in Dutch of in English samengesteld. And you give those combs of honey to a compost bee colony. I will try to explain it again. If in a late summer, late summer, start of the winter, and there are 3-4 colonies coming out of the greenhouses, and they are not healthy anymore, we compose those 3-4 old colonies together. And mostly it's already too cold outside to adapt their sugar water. And we get some full combs of other colonies who are already standing outside and put them in the compost colony.
Okay. So essentially you're losing also colonies that way, as in you're merging 3-4 colonies into one?
Yeah.
So, okay. And again, that needs to be figured into the price?
Of course, yeah.
Do you then figure that into, because if I remember correctly, you're charging like a weekly prices in the Netherlands or was it like so and so much per colony per week for pollination? Do you then figure that into the price throughout the whole year, or is it one who needs the colonies at the end of the summer who needs to pay the extra cost because that's when the extra cost occurs?
Yeah. No, they pay per week, so it's around 40 euros per week. And if a farmer uses bees, let's say from February till end of October, during the whole period, they have a fixed price. But if somebody wants to have bees for, let's say, period August, September, October, they pay extra because those colonies were lost and they pay the extra cost for it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Question 6, I believe then. When a colony is moved from outside into the greenhouse during winter, how can we stimulate the waking up on the pollination behavior most effectively? It's very cold outside. The bees should be placed 1 week before pollination. As I explained before, the pollination is take place. Also, feeding with sugar and water solution will stimulate the pollination process. Water is all the way during the whole pollination period very important, and I will address that question also later on in the presentation. I think we have discussed enough about this question number 6 about earlier starting with the placing the colony in the greenhouse and using the Salix male trees for extra pollen. Question 7. In Finland, honeybees are wintering inside their nest about 6 months, and during that time, they may not come outside at all. When temperature gets warm enough in the spring, the bees have a cleaning flight. That is, if they fly outside and empty their intestines from the waste accumulated during the wintering, it's super messy. How is the cleaning flight of the honeybees in the Netherlands? You said that in the Netherlands it's done inside the greenhouse, but aren't there plants and floors and walls covered with bee poo then? Yeah, we have the same problem. Also at our temperatures, we see that the cleaning flight of the cleansing flight is done in the greenhouse. Sometimes we have an empty old greenhouse which we use for the cleaning flights. We put the bees 1 week earlier in that area, put some salix, willow salix, male trees at it to combine that two actions, cleaning flight and activate the bees earlier. And if there is no old empty greenhouse available, we put them straight in the strawberries or blackberries. And of course, yeah, there's a lot of poo on the leaves and on the flowers, but that's only a short period, and the fruit is clean. So in that time, the fruit is coming on the plants. There is no poo on the fruit. But that's a discussion you have to make the farmer attend of it. That it could be happen in the early period.
But what about in the walls of the greenhouse? Is there, because we had this kind of experience that the farmer didn't like it was very difficult to clean the greenhouse wall.
Yeah, there are some cleaning methods. They because the poo is like a bee wax. It's very sticky and not easy to remove. But after the crops are ready, they disinfect the greenhouses also on the inside to put the new crops in it, and then they clean also the inside of the greenhouse of the bee poo. Will that address your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions about this? Okay. The new subject is beekeeper's work. Can you describe the whole journey of the bee's nest from a beekeeper to the greenhouse and back to the beekeeper, and what happens to the nest along the whole process? No, that's not possible to give a definite answer to that. Conditions may vary too much, type of crops, time of year, length of time the bees are in the greenhouse, etc. The basis is that the bees do well after May and should be replaced every 3-4 weeks after this date. Of course, there are exceptions. Sometimes, like raspberries in the early spring, they give a lot of honey, nectar, and the bees will, the colony will grow instead of decline. And the period of 3 till 4 weeks replacement is not necessary, but that you have to determine by yourself during inspection of the bee colony. But the base is a good guideline, is sufficient. Flying bees brood, lay egg laying queen, and food, of course. Are there any questions about this? Oh, okay.
So are you discussing about the queen, how the queen is, there was some talks about that, that you have to maybe change the queen after the greenhouse work, and that was it as high as 80% of queens has to be changed afterwards? Is this why is this, and what happens?
No, I don't replace any queens after they did the pollination job in the greenhouse. No, that's not the reason. Of course, it could be possible that the queens are too old or something is wrong with the queen, but pollination itself is not a reason for a replacement of the queens.
Okay. What about the because we had this kind of problem in a greenhouse in Mars, that the bees didn't find easily to their hives. They gathered to the corner of it was the southern corner, where there was a lot of very tired bees and quite masses of bees there in the corner. Can you think about that? Is there was this reason only that we didn't have this this colored string, so some kind of markings that the bees could find their colonies? There was some colored marking in the hive, but nothing in the greenhouse itself. But after this string was put into the roof of, or on top of the plants, the bees started flying next day. But it was I don't know, was it just that it was a right time for the plants, or what was the?
I think that we see that sometimes if there is something wrong with the navigation of the bees, and that's one of the items I had put on question 12, second page, and that was about ribbons, blue and yellow, or a triangle beacon. So that will help them for orientation. You can imagine if the bees are, let's say, under the crops, so the crops are going up and the bees are standing below the crops, too low, and it looks all the same in the whole greenhouse. And yeah, if there is no typical marking point, it's very hard for the bees to navigate back. Often you see them bees, if there are more bee colonies in the same greenhouse, you see this bees from colony A at colony B trying to go in, and it's the wrong box, it's the wrong beehive. So markings are very important in the greenhouse.
Yes.
Will that answer your question, Marita?
Yes, it's just, do you think that is there any differences in what kind of material the greenhouse is? That is it plastic or glass or what?
Yeah, of course, that could be also a reason. Yeah. Bees are navigated by ultraviolet light. And if you have, let's say, glass greenhouses with, you call it, it's not clear glass, but it's
yes,
a little bit rough. Yeah, that have a negative effect on the navigation for the bees. And if you have a plastic tunnel, for instance, with a double plastic tunnel, it's also hard for the bees to navigate back. And for that reason, we also advise to have above and around the beehive no climate screens closed or chalk on the outside of the greenhouse, because we often also use chalk on the outside of the greenhouse to get too much sunlight outside of the greenhouse. But that also influences the navigation possibilities of the honeybees.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that we had this kind of double plastic greenhouse. It's what we had this problem.
Okay. And are those plastic greenhouses clear plastic or yellow plastic?
I think that it was quite clear, or what do you say, Anna-Mari?
Yeah, like not that clear as glass.
No, I think it's like
Milky, a little bit milky.
Yeah.
We've seen problems in Indonesia a few years ago, and they also had bees in plastic tunnels, and the bees can't navigate. And we asked some questions about the color or the kind of plastic, and they told us it's yellow plastic by the sun, or I don't know. Anyway, they placed some new parts plastic, clear plastics, near the beehives, and the navigation problem was solved.
Ah, it was near the beehives only.
Yeah, near the beehives only. Yeah, exactly.
Ah, okay.
That's very important.
Yes, but then they started to fly it after we put these strings for orientation or navigation, so they could do it, but the beginning was quite difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, that's the same if you placing the strings or beacons later on, and a lot of bees are already lost then, so they are in every corner of the greenhouse, and then they have to try to arrange the bee colony back. That's not easy anymore then. Okay. I think we are at question 9.
Mm-hmm.
Do the beekeepers ever open the nest in the greenhouse to check the nest are okay, and or do they let the nest be at peace? No, we check every 2 weeks the nest. Sometimes we do an inspection at the flight hole, if the bees are flying okay, if the weight of the bee colony is good, it's still heavy, so you know there's enough food inside. And if you're seeing the bees flying with pollen, everything is okay. But sometimes, if you have any doubts of the farmers, any questions, you have to inspect the bee colony. Is the queen laying eggs? Is there sufficient pollen inside the bee colony? Is there food enough? Do they need something extra? Maybe they need extra combs of brood. That will also be possible. Sometimes you have a crop and the pollen are not have enough in nutrition value for the bees. We put some extra combs with brood from other hives outside into the hives in the greenhouse. That's also possible. And of course, extra food could be possible. Any questions about this?
Do you think, so from your experience, 2 weeks interval for checking is good enough? Because
Yes.
what we've seen here is that within 2 weeks, the colonies can deteriorate quite rapidly in the greenhouse.
Yeah, but if that happens, there should be something wrong. It's not seen or determined before. Of course, everything is possible. If a farmer uses pesticides, for instance, it could be done in 1 day. But that's more an exception than common use. But if you see that a colony collapsed, there should be something wrong, and you could see that before, 2 weeks before. And mostly it's lack of food, or no laying queen, or there are no pollen coming in. That could be all be reasons for the colony collapse. Is that an answer to your question?
Yeah, kind of. As in, yeah. We found that, say you put a colony in the greenhouse and it's doing okay for a week, and then after 2 weeks it's notably worse. Like it's not great for the first week, but it's okay, and after 2 weeks it's worse, and after 3 weeks it's really bad. So I'm thinking if you would only go after 2 weeks, then it's already like you put a colony in and you go and check after 2 weeks, then you kind of missed it to give them a helping hand or anything.
Could you describe what you see then after 2 weeks? Are there a lack of bees? Is there brood less, or what's wrong with it?
Both. A lot of bees gone, and lack of brood. Still some laying, but like very little, and like the brood nest basically being way smaller than before.
Yeah,
but also a lot of bees gone, and essentially, like if you put colonies that have, say, 6 frames of brood, and then after 2 weeks, like you would expect that colony to be much bigger if all that brood hatches. But they didn't get any bigger. On the contrary, it kind of the worker bees seemed, as in like the forager bees, seemed to get lost, and the brood was much smaller than before.
Yeah. I can imagine that the reason is there is a lack of foraging bees, or let's say the bees who getting the pollen and the nectar, and that's the reason, because it's collapsing. Because if there are no bees coming in with pollen, there is no food for the brood. If the bees are not coming back, there is no worm for the brood, so it's also collapsing. And bees will eat their brood. If there is a lack of pollen, it's also happening. So they are cannibalizing their own larvae to have enough nutrition. But the question is, of course, why are not the bees, the foraging bees are not coming back? Is that a navigation problem? Is that a problem is that the farmer opens his greenhouse deck during the daytime because it's warm, and closing it after an hour, and the bees are still outside? Is it because of the energy, how do you call it, screens that are closing, and the bees are between the top of the greenhouse and the energy screen? Did he use pesticides?
No.
Is there a lack of water? It could be different. CO2 is also a reason.
My guess is that I mean, this was in a glass greenhouse, so the orientation problems from the plastic are not a problem, but they do have ventilation on top of the greenhouse, and they open automatically and then they close after like 20 minutes or whatever. So the windows, I'm like, when we were thinking about like what's going wrong here, the idea was that probably the bees are flying out and not coming back. So what's the solution? Is to basically to put insect netting on the vents, or because you can't also ask the farmer to let the greenhouse overheat?
No, of course not. Yes, you can ask him, of course, to to make some mess, or how you call it, gaas, on the
Yeah, like inside
windows.
netting.
Yeah, inside nets. Yeah. Of course you cannot. But it's also possible maybe he let only open 1 or 2 glasses around the beehive. So the bees have still the possibility, if they are outside, to come in.
Mm-hmm.
But another reason which
do they find in? Do they like if there's many windows open and they fly out somewhere? Do they try to get back in the same way they came, or if 90% of the windows are closed and one is still open, are they gonna find their way in through that one?
Yeah, that's a very good question. But we've seen that mostly, not all, but most bees are coming in again, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they are used that window is always open, so mostly they use it also to go outside in.
Okay.
But what also a possibility is that if you are in the period that the winter bees are dying and the spring bees are coming up, that's a very very hard period for the bees.
Critical time.
Exactly, critical time. And if they are pollinating then in a greenhouse, it could be that the winter bees are dying because they are foraging outside in the greenhouse, and the spring bees are just coming up, but there's a lack of period or temperature or something else, and that's always 2-3 weeks, not easy.
Yeah, but this also happened in the summer. Like fresh colonies from outside that were in good condition get put inside, and they really deteriorated quite a bit in a period of 3 weeks' time. Yeah.
But the deterioration you have always with pollination in the greenhouse. It always costs you a lot of bees.
Yeah. No, but therefore my question was, if you put in colonies and they are good and they have 6 frames of brood and everything's fine, and you put them in and you don't go check for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks it's already gone downhill quite a lot. Therefore I was asking, is 2 weeks good enough?
Cool.
Yeah.
Or do you need to go and check after 1 week to make sure that?
Yeah, but that will be too costly for the farmer. And
for
in
the
general,
beekeeper.
Also, and if it costs the beekeeper a lot of money, it will cost the farmer a lot of money.
Well, yeah.
No, in general, what I said before, if you're checking every 2 weeks, that should be sufficient. And if you have any doubt about the quality of the colony, you have to replace it. Yeah. Okay. Any questions more about question 9? Okay, we go then. Shall we finish this and have no pause anymore for 5 minutes? It's only 3 pages. It's only 2 questions. Shall we finish it then?
Yeah.
So we go then to question 10.
Yes, I would like to ask about still go back to that if you are bringing colonies into the greenhouse during summer period, let's say June, July, when they have already started the season and everything is in good phase and in the colony. So and you are bringing them into the greenhouse for pollination. Do you bring them in when there is flowers already open, or is there what is the right time to bring? Like in open land, it's when 5-10% of flowers are already open.
Okay, so the question is, when do you bring your bees in? Should they be already blooming, or should they be at the first the blooms are starting? During the early spring, let's say in the winter period, you have to put the bees 1 week before. That's what we discussed before. And during the summer, only 2 days before should be sufficient. You see that bees can communicate together. So if they are put too early during the summer period in the greenhouses, and there are no flowers in the greenhouses, and the greenhouse is open, and outside the greenhouse there is a nice, let's say, flowers. They discuss that with each other, and they flying outside instead of inside if the farmers' blackberries or strawberries are blooming. So you have to prevent that. They always discuss that, the bees together, where it's most the best to fly at, most efficient flowers to visit. So
Yes.
during the summer period, I would say 1 or 2 days before flowers are starting, you have to put the bees in, and that will be enough.
Yeah, but not when
Not too
they
early.
already.
No.
Not too early. No, but not too late. Then is it too late if they already 5% of flowers are open?
Yeah, but it depends also of the crop, of course. If you have zucchinis, you have to put the bees before the first flowers are starting. But it's only efficient if the zucchini male flowers are blooming, because they have separate flowers. And what you see that the female flowers are always blooming, but the male flowers not always. And that depends on the night temperature. If 7 weeks before the night temperature was too low, you have 6-7 weeks later no male flowers on the zucchini. So that's also an influence.
Okay.
And if you have strawberries, it's not a problem if they are coming 2 days later, the bees, because of strawberry is not one pollination. For El Santa, let's say it's about 150 pollinations for one flower, for one piece of fruit. Every pit in a strawberry was a pollination of a bee. So that's something else as a common flower. Strawberries and blackberries.
Okay, so the strawberry is staying open, and it can survive. The flower can wait maybe a few days with the pollinator, so it's not critical. It's not only 5 hours open and then everything is over.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any part of pollination of the flowers, because you asked not to discuss the pollination about the flowers, because that should be common knowledge. But if you say for next week, can we discuss more about strawberries and blackberries, that should be possible.
Yes, strawberries and raspberries, I think, that are the most common in Finland.
Yeah. Okay. So you wanted some extra presentation about those two?
If we have time.
Yeah. Okay. Raspberries. Okay, that's for next week then. Question 10, do beekeepers take care of the feeding, sugar, water of bees in greenhouses, or do the greenhouse workers do that? No, it's done by us, by the beekeepers, every 2 weeks. If we are taking care of the bees, we also taking care of the food. Having water available is always necessary during the whole period. As you know, bees use water for climate regulation in the beehive, but also for the food care and dilution of feed sugars if we give them. And sometimes you have old honey and also use some water to dilute it. So water is always necessary. Extra food stimulates the queen for laying eggs. So if there is a crop that don't produce much nectar, it could be worse to provide extra food. For instance, eggplants don't make much nectar, so it's always necessary to give the bees the whole period also, besides the water, also sugar, water, or we call it apifonda. No, that's what I was saying below. This can be done by sugar, water, and startup with candipoline. That's the substance with extra added pollen. And later on you can use apifonda, that's without pollen. You had a question?
And is this how do you give the water? Isn't it that they of course the greenhouse the farmer is watering the plants isn't enough, or what kind of system you usually have for water for bees?
Yeah, that could be sufficient. As you know, bees prefer not clean water, they prefer a little bit water with peat. I think that's, you have enough in Finland, peat, and it's a little bit acid. So if you supply the bees with water with a little bit peat in it, that will be in the benefit of the bees.
So what is peat? Is it acetic acid or what you add?
Turve in Finland. Turve.
What?
Turve.
Turve. Oh,
Turve.
oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Some mud from the ground.
From the swamp.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
that's why I said that you have enough peat, turve in Finland.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of turve is coming from Finland to Europe.
Okay.
But the bees prefer that. They don't like very clean water, but a little bit acid. That has the preferred.
Yes. So you have a special bucket for where you put some beet and all this turve, and then you are adding water there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not always, but most often they can use it very good. Yeah. Any questions about this? Additional feeding and water giving? I think that will be then the last one sheet for this Monday. Are there any questions till now which we didn't discuss? So I want to ask everybody if you have questions for the next days, write them down, and next week Monday we start with the questions concerns this presentation of today. Next week we are talking about education of the beekeeper and environmental conditions during pollination in the greenhouse. Crop protection, chemical and biological, and some part about finance. If you have any questions about those subjects, please ask them before. That's also possible. Maybe I can use them this week in the presentation for next week. So please send in your questions to Marita.
Yes, I will say it in Finnish also that että jos teillä on kysymyksiä ja mistä haluatte tietää nyt seuraavaa kertaa varten, niin te voitte kirjoittaa vaikka tähän chattiinkin ihan suomeksi tai suomeksi mulle, tai jos on helpompi, niin laittakaa sähköpostiin, niin välitämme ne sitten ennakkoon Martenille, niin hän sitten osaa puhua niistä ensi viikolla. Okei? So if they prefer to write in Finnish, it's they can send them in Finnish to us, and so we can then translate it to you. But in a few days, so that you have some time to prepare.
Okay, that will be fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is there more, Marita? Anna Maria?
No, I don't know.
One question came to my mind, or I think actually Marita already talked about it a little bit. It was this question about changing the queens, because when we visited Netherlands last year, we heard that even 80% of the queens can be changed during the year. And we had this experience in a greenhouse where the beekeeper kind of lost 2 of her nests, because when the nests were taken outside, the queens didn't continue egg laying or start egg laying again, even if the beekeeper gave them extra food and brood from other nests. For some reasons, the queens didn't just work anymore. So do you know what happened there? And does that happen in Netherlands too?
And you heard that when you were visiting last March the Netherlands?
Mm-hmm.
That should be then told you Aad, because that's my colleague Aad. We visited him at his company together with the eggplant farmer.
Yeah.
So I will call him what he was meaning about it. That's not familiar.
Hang on. No, misunderstanding here.
Okay.
We didn't hear that in the Netherlands. This was an experience of one beekeeper here in the greenhouse. What Anna-Marie just said.
Uh-huh.
Really?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, sorry. The 80% change rate of
Oh yeah,
queens,
that's in the
that's
Netherlands.
from Netherlands.
But the queen's not laying after coming out of the greenhouse. That was here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was our
Yeah.
experience.
Okay, that could be possible, but that has nothing to do with the lack of pollination. Because I've a lot of years now did the pollination in the greenhouses, and of course sometimes you have to replace a queen because it's an old queen or there's something wrong. But let's save. I prefer natural even kijken, how we call it.
Supersedure?
I prefer the national fertilization of the queens and not by KI. There are a lot of programs bringing the queens to fertilization station at the German islands and all that kind of stuff. I prefer the national fertilization because, of course, you can't make specific crosses between the queens and the drones, but you have less of problems with fertilization.
So free mating station, free mating, or what?
Yeah, that's what I prefer. Yeah.
Okay. There is a related to that one. There is a question that is there any differences with different races of bees? What do you use in Holland, or do you know that if Italian bees are better than Carnica, or should it be black bees, or what?
Yeah, there is a difference between all those bees, of course. Also for pollination in the greenhouses, if you want to have more information about that, I will prepare that for the presentation for next week. Because I'm not familiar with all the situations, because what I said before, I use free mating queens, not carnicas or that kind of stuff. I have a lot of Italian blood in my bees, not carnica or the kind of bugfast bees you see here. They have also the benefits, but I will take that also in the presentation next week. Okay?
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, then I will suggest we quit this presentation and speak to each other next week, same time on Monday.
Yes.
Have a nice evening, all.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very
See
much.
you next week.
See you.